I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening again, and thank you very much, fellow board members, staff, and those who are here from the community. If there is anyone here wishing to speak under item, not wrong one. Yes, item number 10, unscheduled audience participation. We have some white cards that you would need to fill out and hand over to Angela, yes. And she will make sure that I get them so that we can have an orderly approach to that item. So just know that if you're here to speak to us on that line item, to do that. Other than that, Mrs. Schaefer, how about attendance?
Okay. President Donnelly?
Here.
Vice President D'Alessandro?
Here.
Trustee Griffith?
Here.
Trustee Foster?
Here.
Secretary Schaefer? Here. Treasurer Bailey?
Here.
Trustee Hansner? Present. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Any changes to the board agenda?
None.
All right. We have before us consent agenda, the minutes of our last meeting, also December bills payable. Would someone like to address that motion? Please.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there support? Chad? Support? Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Prearranged. Oxford High School DECA Club.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We got our DECA group here. I'd like to bring some students up front, and Mr. Rook. You guys want to come on up front? So Mr. Rook has been in the district for 62 or 32 years?
31.
31 years. I might skew this side here. And he's been doing this, Mr. Rook, leading our DECA group for, is it your 23rd year?
23rd.
For 23 years. And so Mr. Rook brings a lot of students to compete throughout the school year and land in nationals. And so nationals can be held in Atlanta, it can be held in, I think this year's in St. Louis coming up. Orlando this year, Los Angeles. And so he gives students the opportunity to work on their skills, whether it be in marketing and other areas in the CTE world. And boy, he's really dedicated with that. Runs this program throughout the school day, also helps organize it after school, and the students spend an awful lot of time during the school day, outside of the school day, on the weekends, competing at states, and then eventually making it to nationals. And we probably get, what would you say, Mr. Rook, about maybe half of our kids make it to nationals?
About 50%, usually our average.
Yeah, about 50% of our kids. So, some things we want to highlight this year just to kind of show the growth and the outreach they've had. We have an entrepreneurship promotion project. And so today we have Jack Caddy, Joey Farmer, Anna Ibarra, and we have Noah here as well. And so for the Entrepreneur Promotion Project, what these students did was they hooked up with our 5th grade classrooms at Oxford Elementary, and it gave them an opportunity to present their work and promote it with our elementary level kids, which was fantastic. And so it not only gives them an opportunity to work with younger students and take a leadership capacity role, but it also promotes the DECA program as well and our CTE department as a whole. And that, in addition, also meets a lot of steps we as a district are working for with our career technical education program. And just getting career information out to students who are maybe a little bit younger and expose them to what a world in marketing and other work can be, when they eventually get to middle school, they may take these courses, and then they may explore that outside of the high school world. So what these students also did was they spent several weeks working with Oxford Elementary and Lakeville Elementary, and then they also ran a project fair called Entrepreneurship, which is pretty clever and well named. And they had a few weeks ago, the first week of January, they had an event at the high school in the Performing Arts Center, and they had basically a career fair that they helped lead and run and brought in the elementary students that they have been working with for the last 5 or 6 weeks or so, which ended and culminated their work, but also gave the students an opportunity to dig in, roll their sleeves up, and learn quite a bit themselves as well. It was a great outreach as well to our businesses and our community to help promote not only the work of our DECA students, not only Mr. Rook's effort, but also the elementary students, and capture their learning as well. So that's just an example, just a taste, a flavor of some of the work that Mr. Rook does, and then the hard work of our students who spend countless hours outside of school preparing these activities and really refining their craft so they can go on to states, do really, really well, and then the majority of them go on to nationals. So we're really proud of our DECA students, and you represent our district really well. Thank you.
I wanted to mention too, Anna Peruski's here, and her group was financial literacy, and they worked at both at Clear Lake, the middle school and the high school, promoting students to be more financially literate, to take responsibility for their finances and plan for their future. And her group did a wonderful job with that project as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great job, everyone. Great job.
And may I add that they came to Clear Lake as well, to my classroom.
Beautiful.
And, the judging and with the community members was absolutely phenomenal. And they were so impressed with how far the students have come, and it's prepared them for exhibition as well. My kids are really ready for that experience.
Thank you for that. Preplan Live.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for having us. My name is Dan Flanders. I'm the founder and CEO. I'm also a parent within the school district. I have a second and third grader within Clear Lake Elementary. And we have a critical incident management platform that we are now implementing within Oxford schools. This is the first platform that we've found that has both some matriculation between the schools, the establishments, and first responders. And as you'll see today, it's really quite a special platform in the relative aspect of mass notification, dissemination of planning, emergency operations plan, all the very important components to emergency response to any type of emergency. So what we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate some of the utility of the product. I'm going to make this brief tonight as we were added onto the agenda, which we really appreciate. So we have best-in-class kits that we believe should be in every classroom in America. Reason for that, something bad happens, arterial bleed, seconds, minutes matter. Running to the front of the school, or God forbid you have an active shooter, obviously as they enter the room, you're not going to follow them out to be able to render care. So within this packet, as you can see, we have a transparent for multiple reasons. I'm not going to go into the details about this pack, but there's a lot of methodology and of course our ideology. Craig and I, with 21 years of first responder, military experience and so forth, we can definitely speak to why we chose this pack. So first of all, the notification system, there's 3 ways. Number 1 is always going to be 911. Pick up the phone, call 911, dispatcher receives the call, and it goes through the Clemis system, through dispatch, it's parsed, matched, and then of course disseminated to all our first responders. Hopefully before that, they have a pre-alert. What's the pre-alert? It's this button here. So it's any Internet of Things button can be pushed. Once it's pushed, so you can see it pushed there, it will disseminate the plan to the first responders, the administration within the school district, and all the end users being the teachers and so forth. So there it is. So you can see right here, panic button, Daniel Oxford School. So what do we have here? This is very important, is that we have a few things, right? Of course, it's live and active. So all the first responders in Oxford just received that instant notification. It says panic button activation Daniel Oxford, right? Push the button. 74 mechanic, how to get there for the first responders. It's a room 24, so they immediately know 24 is the active incident. Door number 11, exterior door number 11, is where we need to gain immediate access. And camera link zone 4. So right now we're working with integration. We have a bridging device that's end-to-end encryption that goes straight to our platform. It's only active when there's an incident. So for the security and so forth of the platform, it's very unique in that fashion. It audits, it tracks, so forth, so everybody gets an audit report. There's no infringement on that end of it. So let's go into the platform. Okay, so really this has every key concept or every key component to managing an incident, from, you know, the general overlay, like the Google map-ish, from 60,000 feet, 20,000 feet. We have street view, so we have views of all the different angles of the exterior. Then we go in and we actually have the interior of the building, which this is the very cool aspect of it here. So we go to 3D. So here's 3D exterior, 3D interior of the buildings. And this quickly, while that's coming up, I'll show you the map of the building. So the first responders automatically now have the layout of the building. Where's my phone at? So essentially, what did we say? We said that the incident was in room 24, right? D11 was the nearest entrance, you know, so they know to come to this side, you know, the north side of the building, and then the zone 4. These blue are all video cameras within the school. So what have we done is, here's interior 3D, here's the exterior 3D of the school. So you can see all the exterior doors are labeled with the Ds. That's still building a little bit. It's going to be slow in here just because I'm at an LTE and I'm not within, oh, there we go. So it's popping up. So you can see here, if you look out, all of our fire hydrants within the township in the village of Oxford is here. Then you zoom in on the school, you can see where the nearest fire hydrants are and the exterior doors. So we said we were going into what, D11? So this is what D11 looks like, okay? So then not only have we exterior 3D image the entire premise, but we've interior 3D image. We have, I think this is, I'm pretty certain of this. I mean, this is the first, and there might be a couple within the country, but nobody that has this platform. Probably the first district in the country that has every building within their school district 3D mapped. So it's a pretty special thing. What's that mean? So here you go. Here's all your rooms and so forth. Let's go into room 24. First, I'm going to show you this. This is why we chose this camera system. Is, see how I'm going to rotate this? And now let's enter room 24. Now we're in room 24. We can walk the whole school. Okay? Now, how critical is this? Information is power. Information translates into efficiency. Efficiency translates into improved outcomes. Time equals outcomes. And that's what we've done here. So now, you literally hit this link. We've had it active in the past for proof of concept briefly over minutes, but of course it's not live now. But in the future, you'll be able to hit this link and it'll go through our bridge and you'll be able to see the active camera. So that's essentially, that. You know, this has a lot more components, but that's holistically overlooking the entire platform. We have deep linking, meaning that if electrical panels and so forth, we can actually get an X, Y, Z coordinate on that, and we can shoot you into that. Let me just show you. It's worth seeing. So, this is very important. So everybody in the district, as soon as that plan is disseminated, so check this out. No. Okay. Anyways, I'm sorry I don't have that connected. Here's your lockdown procedure. So instantly, now you have your lockdown procedure. Now, of course, you're going to close the door, lock it, get out of sight, right? Make it dark, and then you're going to be going through your checklist of what do I need to do in order to protect my students. We have emergency operation plan on here, so all the shut-off procedures. So natural gas, where is that? So you can view it on the map, so you can see right here, that blue, probably hard for you guys to see, but I apologize. But also you can view it in 3D. And this is that deep linking, you can see it here in front. So we can deep link anything and really zero in on the navigationally onto it. Questions? Security. We're ISO 27001 compliant. So we're within a hosted environment that's on top of Amazon, AWS. So we take that very seriously.
Please, Dan.
So when you link into the camera, it goes to your bridge, it's live of that, whatever incident may be happening in that particular area. Can you switch from camera 1 to a camera down the hallway? If, say there's an active shooter, if he's moving down the hallway, we can track him as he or she is moving down the hallway, and then that gives us a better...
You got it. So what we do is we zone it. So we have like the first, say, 6 cameras in, say, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. So you have 6 cameras in zone 1, and you move to zone 2, you'll be able to see the 6, so you'll be able to track him. And it would say the location of the camera, of course, in the nearest room to that.
And a follow-up to that.
Yeah, please.
When first responders are on scene, there's a situation going on in the building, does that signal come to their handheld device?
Yeah.
So they don't have to be in front of a static computer, it goes to a handheld device, so as the situation moves, first responders can move along with that situation and still have that information, obviously protect anybody inside the building and themselves as well.
Yeah, we call that, so it's device agnostic. So whether you have, say, an Android versus an iOS, a tablet versus a desktop computer, it all works within it. This is a cloud-based resource, and that in itself is very important for the dissemination of information. We do have a role-based system, so of course the incident commander is going to have the privilege of being able to go and actually view the cameras live and so forth. The firefighter and so forth is not going to have that access. So we have that agility within our platform as well, so that we don't overly congest, nor do we have people that don't need access into the cameras.
That was going to be my next question. So if all of a sudden every first responder in
Yeah. No.
a 20-mile radius is on this, is it going to interrupt the feed from point A to the actual first responders on the scene?
Not at all. Yeah. So one is we're scalable to multiple devices. We've got to test 100 devices on it to see available, but it's a server that they use to disseminate, mass sports events and all that sort of thing. It's very well known.
And then a follow-up to that one.
Please.
Sorry, I apologize.
All right, good stuff.
And then can we block who sees this feed? My concern is if we have this feed, all of a sudden, anybody with access to it is logging onto it, and all of a sudden you've got a news report coming out of Detroit, this is what's going on, and here's live action. Is there a way to block that?
Only the user group that is identified within that district. So we do have the ability to be interoperable, meaning that we can have, when Oakland County Sheriff, now you have Rochester Police, then you have Michigan State Police, we have that interoperability, but of course that comes that they're going to have to log into the system and that sort of thing.
Because my concern is if there's a fatality in the building, the last thing I want is some family member to see their loved one
Of course.
in that situation,
Of course.
so that's important.
Of course.
Thank you.
Very sensitive to all the privacy issues.
Okay. Yes, Mayor.
I have a question. If this all is based on the internet, so the signal is coming from these schools over the internet, is that dependent on your internet provider then? I mean, if I don't know who the provider is for
Yeah,
schools, but if
so-
you have AT&T, now AT&T's down in this area,
Yeah.
how does that signal get across?
So two things. One is, yes, it's internet-based, but it does have a failover cellular. So should the internet go down, it'll fail over to a cellular network, and it'll broadcast on that. So that there's some redundancy there. That's, of course, very important to a product like this. Any other questions?
I have a question for Sam, if I may.
Yeah.
Sam, all the updates that you've been giving to us over the past 8 months to a year, how does this fit in with, obviously from my perspective, it fits in everything that a district could ask for with the technology today. But how does it fit in with everything that you've been researching and bringing to us as far as, just as Daniel was saying, time equals outcome?
Well, that's the whole thing. Time, obviously this buys you time. This enables you to provide that instant emergency response to those that need to know. Obviously first responders first, and also obviously everyone within the building who is provided, their cell phone number would have this ability to know, at least at the very minimum, what is occurring. Not to per se get into the system to see
Right.
what exactly is occurring, because again, it's definitely role-based in terms of the access to the specific program that we're seeing here. But it's really truly about emergency response, in my view. And so to answer your question about the research that I've done, it really is all about saving time. Most of these instances of, let's just say, an assumed active shooter incident, it's approximately a 6 or 7 minute event. And so seconds count a lot. And if you're able to engage a system such as this, which is very innovative and utilizing really the latest technology, and if you can save seconds, that's saving potential lives. And so it really goes hand in hand with everything that I've researched, and it is very innovative.
Thank you, Sam.
I do have a follow-up
Yes,
question.
please, Eric.
If this isn't the right forum for this question, we can have it offline, but I'm just curious, what is our investment into this system up till now and moving forward monetarily? So Sam, or you probably know better than anybody.
Oh, sure. Well, right now, we have not been presented an invoice for any of the services performed. The 3D imaging was working collaboratively with, obviously, Dan and Craig over the past almost a year. And so, I don't know if you want to speak to any of
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, with me having children within the district, all of our 3D imaging, our work up to this point was gratis. It was, we use this as a pilot. Community, like I said, this, not to my knowledge, has been done anywhere else in the United States to this extent. I know nobody has a platform like this. We developed this platform. This is my platform. Built it in-house with developers and so forth. We have a very robust development staff. And so to answer your question, it's been $0 out of pocket. What I would like to see is I would like to see these kits be placed within every classroom, because I'm a nurse anesthetist. I've also been a 21-year paramedic fireman, and I'm on the SWAT team with Oakland County. So I have a very vast understanding when it comes to critical incidents and what is the most important. Most important is everybody is a first responder. That's the first person to witness an event is the very first responder. And then from that chain, the quicker you can culminate, you mitigate that situation, the better, of course. But what happens is now you have injured people, because it's a locked door, you have to render them care. You have to have these medical kits in every classroom. I am a firm believer in that, and they're very affordable. So if I would ask for you guys to expend any money on our project, it would be for this, because I think it's a worthy cost.
So Sam, is it fair to say that's our next step then? Is you're going to be looking at where does this fit in your overall safety process?
That's correct. We've definitely been working since we were working in Proctor last year with Preplan Live. The next steps are, again, trying to find out how much these kits will be, how many kits we will need, and frankly, we have another opportunity at a safety grant, similar to the safety grant that had occurred back in the fall of this year, of 18. There's a new $25 million available statewide. And so I'll be applying for that grant and using these costs and putting those costs within this grant application as an example. So, but that absolutely, Tom, that is the next step for me is, in regards to this particular project, as well as providing cell phone numbers for our administrative staff and asking our other staff members if they will be so willing to provide their cell phone numbers for this service as well. So there's several things going to be happening within the next several weeks.
Okay, so like the LifeLock things that we did a couple years ago, we might be looking at this, a proposal the same way for this in the future.
Yes.
Okay.
So again, those safety locks.
Yep.
So again, again, whatever these dollars are for these bags times how many bags we need throughout the district, I would be coming forward, obviously, to the board, regardless of whether it's funded by a grant or not, for approval from the board.
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Oh,
and
of
as a
course.
parent
My
of a
pleasure.
student, thank you for your investment.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Board of Education matters. Our first item is high school choir field trip to Orlando, Florida.
We're going, is that what you're saying?
As long as you can sing.
Oh, looks like I'm staying behind.
So I'm just here to answer any questions you have done. The information was put in your packet. What is up for your approval is a return trip for our choirs to perform at Disney, and not just at theirs, but with Disney. The neat thing about this candlelight processional program is that our students would be selected by Disney to be a cast member for them. So it's not just that they give us a stage or a street to stand in and perform, but there's a more rigorous requirement of what our students need to be able to do because they sing with Disney cast members with a professional orchestra, 50-piece and stuff. So they care very much about the caliber of students that are going to perform there. So a real neat thing is our students have had the opportunity to do this program before 4 years ago, and if approved would go again and be a Disney cast member for 2 of their performances there. So it's something that these students carry with them, certainly well beyond just that, hey, I was singing at Disney, but also I was a cast member, got to go backstage where they only let cast members go and such like that. They'll be performing 14 songs they've learned throughout the fall in addition to the choir music they get from us here. And they would go performance ready to Disney, have a rehearsal with the professional director, and then walk out on the stage and do a double-header performance for a worldwide audience in essence that waits up to an hour and a half in a line to see a showing. So that's a synopsis of it. Wondering if you've got any questions.
When is that? Next year?
Yes, December, and it would be looking at the available dates. There's a lot of factors involved there when they have availability for the performances because they offer 3 a day.
Oh.
So they have choirs coming from around the country that flood down there to fill their slots. So there are openings that we go for. We're looking at doing the week going into break, so it'd be that week.
A couple of questions. I noticed the date changed to that week before break.
Yes.
Where before it was the 26th, around Thanksgiving time. Is that going to affect some of the OSEC students that are taking college exams? How's that going to affect? And have we kind of talked to the parents as well that we're kind of already planning around this date and may or may not be able to do this date?
Right. This is, I mean, there's so much at this stage that trying to get you the information we need. As of what we missed is that Thanksgiving is a week later. And so that just really threw the advanced planning on that front. We knew the dates were in flux coming to you that at this earliest stage so we could really do the planning after approval as much as possible, that there would be some unknown on those dates. Like right now, I cannot get a quote on flights yet because we are just like 10 days away from being able to access those dates. and that's going to drive some price too, if that makes sense. So to answer your question about OSEC, I don't have an answer for that right now. Nobody's required to go, so it is an optional thing. Families make that decision, is this a fit for us with our calendar kind of thing.
Right.
So really, there wouldn't be any firm things happening until your approval. We still need to have Disney formalize an invitation, so I'm trying to get all those steps in place in the right order, I guess.
Is this gonna, coming into that last week before break, how is this gonna affect the Many Moods of Christmas practice? I know how much you have on your plate that week, and
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. This would be after that.
okay.
Dan?
You mentioned it's a voluntary thing. Is this parents fund this trip, or is this out of budget,
Right.
your budget, or a budget? How does that?
This would be students they would pay monthly, $135 is what we're looking at right now. But that wouldn't completely cover the costs. What I've gone to is we sing for support, not sell products and stuff. So when we have a concert, people are able to buy reserved seats or go for free in the upper levels kind of thing. So there's some money generated that way. What we've gone to, starting with Ireland and with this trip here, is profit sharing, if you will. So when we raise $5,000, that gets split with everybody going, so it brings people's costs down. So rather than a number of years ago where we'd have a pool of $5,000 and 5 people got it or 7 people got it and they got a few bucks knocked off a monthly, this way it's going to help everybody. So it's paid for by the students with support of the program.
Thank you.
So how did you pick the 50 students who are going?
They have to audition and meet criteria that Disney would say we need to have. So it was based on an audition of a Christmas song that is a Disney song, and it's the same song that we would need to also record as a full group. So it's based on their note accuracy, their quality of tone and stuff. They don't have to be the best singer, but they have to be able to cover the bases of, I can sing this part, I can sing it with a healthy tone kind of thing. Good question.
Any other questions? Mr. Carter, thank you very much.
Thank you for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's another trip to be heard about. Mr. Deuce, Jill. One or the other.
I didn't feed you for nothing.
6 years, yeah, it works out well. I just fell asleep back there. But so 6 years ago, 2012, so yeah, 6 years ago now, we established a sister school relationship with Puebla, Mexico. It was at the time a brand new school associated with the University of Puebla. So we went down and set up a sister school relationship, and it was started out as an exchange of ideas, Skyping teachers, and then very quickly it came out of friendship that they would spend 2 weeks with us, and then our students would go down and spend 2 weeks with them. So typically they come down around Halloween time, and then we go down toward the end of May, just after graduation, and they send 8 to 10, and we will also send 8 to 10 down. So the goal of the program is to limit the cost. Students basically pay airfare and then any spending money they want. All of the lodging, they stay with a host family, another student that typically they have hosted or will host. And those parents cover meals, daily expenses, those type of things. So they basically get adopted as an American student when they come up, and our students get adopted as a Mexican student when they go down. They spend some time visiting the school, spending the day as a Mexican student or an American student when they come up here, and then they also take day trips. So while our students they're hosting, school still goes on, so we send our students on day trips to see local sites, visit American culture. We send them to Frankenmuth, Detroit a couple of days. We take them around to Oxford, Lake Orion, Rochester, and just do some daily sites. We take them to the Northeast Historical Museum typically, which is a very underrated museum, by the way. And so typically it's the airfare. So we just kind of an update. It's been an annual thing. They've come up 6 times and we have gone down 4. So this would be our 5th trip down.
Yes, Dan.
I'm going to ask this as probably as sensitive as it can be asked.
See?
Well, that, with the current climate
Yep.
that's going on, safety number one factor, first and foremost. And number two, do we have any hesitation of students from Mexico coming here? Or is there still, this is still a strong want? Because I know the program is fantastic.
There is a strong want from them certainly coming up. They know we can basically handle 10 students, just the capacity to find host students. And the Mexican students traditionally are much more willing to go on an adventure. Most of our students haven't left home with their parents for more than a week. Now we're asking them to leave without their parents for 2 weeks. So as a cultural thing, our students tend to be less adventurous as a whole. Where theirs, it's just kind of part of the culture. Some of their students go to Paris, some of them go to Toronto at different times of the year, so they're used to the international travel. So they typically will have about 100 students apply, and they will pick 10. Out of that 10, depending on the visa requirements, have gotten a lot harder over the last couple of years. They've sent up to 12. The first year they sent 12. We said we can take 10, and then our students who visited now kept inviting more of the people, the kids that they met. So they ended up sending 10. Then we had 10, I think, then the last couple of years we've had 9, 8, and then this year was 7, because 3 of them couldn't get visas.
Our students couldn't get visas?
Our students, going to Mexico is not a problem. So our students do not even need visas. They need a passport. Their students getting granted visas here is becoming more and more difficult. That's just international students overall. So students who are straight A students, for some whatever reason, maybe they have an uncle who has a business in Mexico or a business in California, might exclude them from being able to come over. So they don't really ever get explanations. The students that they sent, particularly the last time, Jill could attest, just a great group of kids. We have not had, occasionally we have a student or two who might not want to participate as much. They might be a little bit homesick. But traditionally that has not been a problem. We have not had a behavior issue. We have not had a concern. We haven't had any issues with students who have come up here. The students that we have sent down, most of them have represented us really, really well. They have not had issues of, hey, it's an American in Mexico. I know that certainly the international relations is a little bit different now. Puebla is kind of a unique city. It's a pretty eclectic city. It is kind of the cultural, historical, culinary, religious center of Mexico, kind of where as a history person, that the European settlers settled originally and then broke out from. So the Dominicans and Franciscans, they all started there, and depending on the direction they headed, is the order that they were from. So it is a place where, so if you're going to talk about safety, San Antonio has the lowest crime rate by far in the United States of any major city. Puebla has a crime rate less than a third of San Antonio. So while issues traveling overseas, if you're traveling to any other city, our DECA went to Atlanta last year, right? So while we're sending our kids to Mexico, it is an area that has not had the issues like the border towns or the industrial towns. They have a lot of international businesses there, particularly Volkswagen, American Auto Industry, a lot of German and French population there too. While we're sending students to Mexico, they're sending students to like the stereotypical like Detroit, right? And as we know, Detroit is a great place to visit. It's a great place to go. Certainly different than it was, a decade or two ago. So some of that is just kind of knocking down that stereotype to where they're going. So I've been to Puebla 3 times. Joe Amabo's been there at least 3 times. We've sent students down there. If I wouldn't send my kid down there, I wouldn't send any student down there. So I have not had reservations. Christy, actually, when we went, we were wandering around the streets of downtown Puebla. It was 12:32 in the morning.
Went for a
with
jog
Matt
on the
Johnson
hill?
taking pictures of doorways. It's a beautiful city.
I went for a jog all by myself, just, needed a run.
We
It's
appreciate
beautiful.
doing that. Any other comments or questions? All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Jill?
I just wanted to update everyone on a few different projects that I've been working on. They might seem a little disjointed because they're in different avenues of education, but they're all mine, that's what. So I think Tim had me come to you when I first got my title last year, the new title of Director of Educational Solutions. And what I quickly found is that means anything can be sort of packaged as an educational solution. And I'm really liking the opportunity to do some versatile different projects this year. And we've been having a lot of fun. Matt Johnson works with me quite a bit on some marketing stuff and trying to package our educational products, mostly with the virtual side of the house, but also looking at some of our international programming and seeing how we can best push those products out around the globe, especially given some of the issues that Mr. D'Alessandro was mentioning about immigration and such. So some of the programs I've been working on, I'm still working on the Oxford International program, the seated program at the high school. We have the virtual international program now, which is an online program exclusively. Lighthouse Connections Academy, which is the cyber charter school that we authorize through the state of Michigan. And a newer program, Graduation Alliance, which is a dropout recovery program. And I'm always looking for other competitive projects to try and generate revenue for the district. So for the international program, we've been working a lot with Oxford High School leadership, looking at what would be the optimal size of a program. We talked to you about this year being a sort of a step back and build year and kind of decide what we want to do for the fall. We're still in that process, and we've had some surveys go out to administration and some really rich conversations around the topic. Trying to come up with goals that we can all agree with and all see that match with our district plan and our district vision. We currently have one senior at the high school, Aviut, excellent kid. He's living with the Reese family, if you're familiar. He's been very successful this year. I know he has applied to something like 12 different schools already, so he's been busy. Some of the challenges we face, funding changes in the state of Michigan. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with that change. Starting in the 1920 school year, we will no longer receive the foundation allowance for students that pay tuition. So we must, by federal law, accept tuition for these students if we're issuing them an F1 document for their visa. Therefore, we cannot accept the state funding. So we've had to increase our tuition, and we're still right pricing that right now. And then the immigration politics. We did have several students who were not able to make it through immigration, or it took several interviews to get over here, like Mr. New said, for no obvious reason. As far as the virtual international program, we're in the process right now of running an online pilot. We're pushing out professional development opportunities to teachers in Brazil and in India right now. So they are talking with one of our high school English as a second language experts, Miss Erin Pauley, and she's communicating with them through a digital classroom. She's in Haiku right now, and also through Zoom meetings. So they do have a way weekly of meeting with her and asking any questions in a face-to-face forum. We're considering expanding that into different content areas. If it's been going successfully so far. I think we're in week 3 of the modules. And the school that has sent the one individual from Brazil is in Lavras. It's at the Gammon Institute. They're very interested in having their high school students attempt some of our coursework online. So that's sort of the next step, is to try and expand into the high school age. The Lighthouse Connections Academy, our cyber charter, we were told to expect around 200 students. The most recent count is at 306. I actually spoke with the principal today, and she said they're well over 350 now for semester 2. But officially we're at 306, and that's the grade breakdown. I did put the heat map up there just to show you we're helping students, some of whom in the UP, all over the state of Michigan. And as we originally talked about in this room about creating the charter, we didn't want to compete with ourselves. I think you can see that that's not what we're doing. We're reaching students that would not otherwise have these educational opportunities. I did speak with the principal, Sherry, at the high school level there, and talked with her. They have many volunteer opportunities. They're trying to get students to, well, they're virtual charter students and online most of the time, to come in and have those social opportunities. They did go to the Pontiac Soup Kitchen around Christmas time. They had field trips. They went to the DIA. So they have regularly scheduled events for those students who want to partake. Obviously, some of the students in some of the further regions of the state may not be able to make those events, but they're always welcome to. And Graduation Alliance is a program new in the state of Michigan in the last, I believe, 2 years ago. They said that we could start counting students through 23A funding who were up to 22 years old who had dropped out of school. These students are attempting our Crossroads graduation requirements, which are just the Michigan merit curriculum. And we've been working with the entire administrative team at the secondary level to make a student-by-student decision of whether or not this is a good program for them, a good fit. Right now, actually, since I created this, we have a 9th active student and a 5th pending student. And the students who fit this criteria, the students who come in the program must fit at least one of these criteria to be funded through the state. So what we did was we gave this company, Graduation Alliance, a list of students who are our cohorts 5 and 6 who did not graduate last year and the year previous, and said, please reach out to them. We'd love for them to get an Oxford diploma. Mr. Cocosetta at Crossroads provided some audits of all their credits for those students that were interested. And again, on a case-by-case basis, we went through to see if the student had a reasonable expectation of graduating through this program. And we have our first soon-to-be graduate who is taking his final tomorrow. He has an 89% in the course, so I'm pretty hopeful for Jack Sawyer. And he gave me permission to share this with you. I thought it was a powerful statement. If you don't mind, I'll read it aloud just so the cameras can hear. But I didn't think there was any hope left, but you guys just want people to graduate and keep going with their lives. You have the best interest for the student. I really see that. I was happy with the program and the classes were straightforward. I appreciate all you've done for me. It was really helpful, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who could use it. It's a huge relief to be finished. It's like a load off my chest. Thank you so much. That was a high school student that dropped out in his senior year. He felt like it was hopeless because the high school curriculum is a little more rigorous than the basic Michigan merit curriculum. He came in and he only had to do, 2 courses, I think, and he got his diploma. So, yeah, I was about to.
Yes, please.
Okay, so tell me more about this Graduation Alliance. It's online, kind of like a NOVA, but it's a different program.
Absolutely.
They're not coming in, or they would maybe come into a seated situation. No.
No, they're not in a seated situation unless they have special education needs, then they're welcome to. Based on their particular IEP. Otherwise, no, it's all virtual. And the students have not only a mentor like an OVA, but also an advocate, a local advocate that does meetups. That is not an Oxford staff member. And actually, the student does not interface with Oxford staff at all, besides for the credit audit and to be, for that team decision to get them into the program. Then we are transferring them over.
So
to
like
graduate.
a judge says, or the probation officer, or somebody kind of says, this is an option for you, and refers them, or are these kids that were in our district at one time and then?
Every student within our district at one
They
time
were.
right now.
Okay.
We would have the option of seeking out other opportunities, but we've decided not to do that at this time.
Not right
We're
now.
just
So
focusing on
this was a
students.
previous Oxford student,
Yeah.
seated student, I should say, okay.
Yeah, I think Graduation Alliance is in 28 other districts.
Okay.
Mr. Weaver, does that sound right? In Oakland County, in this area?
Yeah.
They're popular.
Interesting, okay. Yeah, well, one more quick question. Does the state allot, like a student allotment after they're 18? I mean, I know they do in a special education situation until they're 26, but I guess I didn't realize that there was like another window for a non-504 IEP kind of kid.
Right, it's adult ed, it's a different people
A different-
accounting, it's a different funding stream, it's a different way of counting. They do count them every month based on how much they're progressing. So, yes,
Okay.
we do get some funding. It's minimal, it's more really
Minimal,
about,
I'm sure, right.
It's about trying, the statement from Jack, kids that are trying to get their diploma and move on with their lives.
One last question. This is super interesting. Do they have to pay for this class? Like, do they register and pay for this class?
No, it's all part of the state funding.
So what, go ahead.
So this is I did remember hearing about this in an earlier meeting, so this is a program that we participate with, that we give the information to the group and they seek them out. So these 8 people, or the 9 people you said we have are active now, plus 5, this is so exciting, that they were sitting around not knowing what they were going to do until they were contacted by the Graduation Alliance program folks and offered them this opportunity to come back and get their diploma from Oxford High School.
And previous to this program, they would not have had an option to come back to us because most of them are over 19.
Right,
And so
they
this
would
has opened a new opportunity for them. Yeah.
That is fantastic.
We're also working with the high school staff to see if there's any students who are current seniors now in semester 2 who will not graduate.
Right.
And so we don't want to lose them. We don't want them to have to drop out and then go find them. We would like to say to them, look, you're in danger of dropping out or not graduating. Can you transfer over now? And so we don't lose that physical connection with the student.
And that's because that can feel pretty hopeless too when you're a senior and you're not going to graduate. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Corey? How are we finding or letting students find us for this program? How would somebody know to come to us to get that?
That's a great question. So we first took our graduation report through the state and found every student who dropped out, because you have to have dropped out. Found every dropout student and gave those names and our most active contact information to Graduation Alliance. And you can look, we actually had access through a portal online. You can see every time they attempted to contact that person. Every person was contacted by phone 9 times, I believe is the metric. They were left with 1 or 2 text messages, and then letters were also sent to the most recent address for that person. But on the flip side of that, just from a competitive standpoint, mentioning, Ms. Schaefer mentioned OVA, we didn't want to compete with ourselves or try and get students to choose this over one of our current programs. This is supposed to be a last chance, last resort option. And so Graduation Alliance in our contract cannot contact students unless we refer them. So they can only reach out to those students whose names we give them. Yes.
And is this only for Oxford students that have dropped out, or is this statewide, or?
This program is available right now to Oxford students only.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So is there a plan to go beyond the Oxford borders at some point?
We've discussed it. I think that really, I think it'd be kind of a really big undertaking right now. So I think we're trying to wrap our arms around this and make sure that we can do this and do it well, and do it in a meaningful way before we have some more serious conversations about that. It's not likely that we'll reach out to other districts.
And other districts have agreements with Graduation Alliance, and I think it's 18 other districts that have in Nelson County. So there are other districts doing the same program with this couple.
So I asked that because, for example, I'm involved with a charity that helps for women with been victims of trafficking. Right? So these are women who are in a facility for 2 years, and many of them probably don't have the diplomas who may benefit from a program like this or other programs. I don't know if that would be an option to reach out to them in the future. So
It's definitely something we can talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So is there any differentiation in the diploma for one of these students than there would be for our seated students?
Yes and no. Yes, in that it's not from whatever school they may have dropped out of necessarily, but it is an Oxford Crossroads diploma.
Okay.
So whether you were a high school student, an OVA student, a Bridges student, and dropped out, they're all going to get a Crossroads.
It's still a state of Michigan recognized diploma.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, Corey.
Do we offer them the opportunity to walk commencement with the Crossroads students?
The Crossroads students don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
They have a,
Because it's so individualized, it's
Yeah.
a individual recognition for each Crossroads student when they graduate.
So I mean, just to recognize them when you completion.
We are discussing what we want to do with that, and we thought maybe that in the future, just throwing this out, that we may have them recognized at a board meeting, maybe do something with the conference. But we've got a conference.
These students are on we made the decision that they could get their diploma as they earn it, so not in any session, not,
Right,
not
maybe
kind of
January
dates.
for one person.
Right.
April for another.
Right. So these are on a rolling basis and they're year round. It's 12-month programming.
It's nice to continue to be
Uh,
recognized.
mine's really not a
Yeah.
question, but more of a statement to your point. And if you, it's one of the things that we don't see on an everyday process. But follow a guy on Facebook or Instagram, and anytime somebody graduates, he does a great job of recognizing them on social media. And it really is, it's cool to scroll through and see, wow, here's a kid that, typically you're graduating at, 18 years of age, and some of these kids are 19, 20, it's taken a long journey. And that recognition it's cool to see.
I saw the one he did on LinkedIn this week.
It was a great job.
I was impressed.
So just some personal contact with this program. as a pastor, I've had the opportunity to get 2 people connected to this program. What an amazing program. The accountability of dropping a kid off at the library every Wednesday, and there's a guy there that holds them accountable for their work, and the handing to them of a notebook that they're able to do all their work in. Having a kid run downstairs and tell you what they've achieved, and they're showing their homework and stuff. This is a really good approach to taking kids who think that there's never ever going to be a chance,
Right.
and having them walk out with a diploma. This is an amazing program. Just my personal thoughts. Sir?
So just a couple of things. As Jill said, really, our main emphasis to begin with was just going back and trying one last time to reach any Oxford student who was an Oxford student at one time, who had dropped out, quit, whatever, and try and help them. There's at least one other district, I believe, that I'll say basically has opened this up and is actively recruiting students from other districts. It's not to say that we couldn't do that, but I think that would be way down the road at this point. I'm just giving my 2 cents worth right now. Could we do that? Yeah, but probably not for a while. One, we want to make sure we try and reach all of our students first, and then we can worry about other students. And I also I understand your question about wanting to recognize these students. Sometimes, though, many times, we can't publicly recognize these students because of their background. And so I want you to know that, these students who are coming through Crossroads, they're earning their diploma. Right before Christmas break, I went over and a guy and I met with 3 students before they had finished up and done some things. And so internally, when we get a chance, while it may not be pop in circumstance and with hundreds of people, we do what we can to celebrate and acknowledge them and give them their own graduation celebration, I'll say it that way. And so we have to be careful of that. So just want to give that perspective.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes, Dan, question.
Jill, you had mentioned earlier about international students, and there was a funding change from the state. When did that roughly, I'm sure you could probably, the exact date, but roughly what was the date that happened?
Well, they actually, in this recent legislation this year, they made the change, and then they changed it to extend this year's funding. So originally, they were not going to allow us to receive funding this fall, but they've changed that now. It begins in 2019. Fall
So
of
they
2019.
grandfathered, they
Yes.
legislated it, then they grandfathered it back to the original funds, and now 2019, this funds no longer.
Correct.
So I'm going to ask a question, and it may not come out right, but I think you guys want to know.
Be careful.
So any student that we educated internationally, we receive tuition dollars from the state.
On an F1
On
visa,
an F1 visa.
not a J1 student.
Okay.
Correct, yes.
F1 student visas that we educated, we receive funds from the state.
Correct.
And that was all based on the legislation that reverted back. Okay, I'm good with it. I just wanted to make sure that when we educated a student on an F1 visa, we were made whole from the state.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll say it this way. All the way up until this past fall, when we issued an F1 visa, we were required by law to charge that student tuition,
Correct.
which we did. We also received tuition from the state for a portion of their per pupil foundation, which we received. I want to say in October, don't hold me to it, but somewhere in that time frame, bill was passed and it became law that in this existing school year, 2018-19, if you had a F1 student in your district and you charged them tuition, which you have to do legally, you would not receive the state foundation. During the lame duck, one of those things passed in the wee hours of the night was a delay that it wouldn't go into effect until the 2019-2020 school year. So our one student that we have this year, we did charge that student tuition, and we are receiving the state foundation for that student this year. Going forward in the fall of 2019 and forward, we will not be receiving any state foundation. Any and all tuition that we would raise, we would be charging to the student.
Okay.
All right?
My main concern is that we've been made whole by the state and the
Yes.
fluctuation in that law and didn't cause a problem.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, great, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, we have for a meeting or two been looking at the code of conduct. And so, Board of Education Leadership Code, there is a motion there before us. Dan,
Move to approve the 2019 Board of Education Leadership Code.
is there support? Corey, support? Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Property update.
So before I jump into that, right back here on the panel before you go home tonight is an actual printout, and we would like everybody to sign your name, and that's what we will post in the boardroom. Okay? So just one more of your to-dos before you go home. All right. Land update. I wrote down some notes so that I wouldn't forget anything. We are moving forward in our due diligence concerning the property. The title companies worked with legal counsel, with the seller and the developer to remove a number of title exceptions. All of the remaining exceptions contained in the title commitment that would affect the district's ownership, development, and/or use of the property have been or will be removed at prior to closing. There are only two title exceptions that remain, and those are the sanitary sewer and water main easements. The township engineer has confirmed that these easements can be moved south on the current location proposed by the district's engineer. Legal descriptions are currently being prepared for the new locations of these easements. We're waiting drafts of a detention agreement and new easement agreements from the seller's attorney. In addition, the Alta survey and Phase 1 environmental audit have been completed. The Alta survey shows that the only remaining easements and encumbrances on the property are the sanitary sewer and water main easements. Therefore, the Phase 1 environmental audit has confirmed that the property is not a facility and no testing or further actions necessary. So, at this point, I would advise the closing is going to need to be extended a couple more weeks in order to resolve the final due diligence. However, since no substantive terms are being changed, I don't believe that there's any concern on our part, because our current amendment extended our purchase agreement to the end of January. It's going to be my recommendation that I sign a second amendment, and that will extend the sale again, this time for a couple more weeks until February 15th. So basically, just in summation, upon final agreement by the parties on the detention and easement agreements, I think we will be ready to close sometime mid-February. I know that was a lot, but basically all it means is all of the Title exceptions have been removed, except for a couple, and we're working on those final two right now with the township engineer, and we're getting the seller, the township, and us to agree on the new easements so that those can be legally placed and then we close.
Yes, Dan?
Under the category of no question is a dumb question. Title exceptions, meaning that we can do whatever we want with the property, correct?
Correct.
And question 2 under no dumb question is a dumb question. You said that there are some tests that we don't have to do right now because we're not putting a building on it. Is that soil tests or anything like that?
Yeah, basically, they did what's called an ALTA survey, and that goes back a number of years to see, was there any development, was there manufacturing, what was actually happening, and because that survey showed that there was not development, there wasn't any concerns.
So in other words,
we don't need to go any further in doing soil testing, boring, any of that kind of stuff. We just don't need to.
so there was never a gas station or a laundry?
Correct.
So there's no need to. So there's no need to do anything like that?
Correct.
Okay, so we're not going to have to do those types of tests later down the road? That's
Correct.
Okay.
Good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else?
So unless I hear differently, I just want to let the board know I am going to give permission and extend, sign that second amendment to extend our sale agreement a couple more weeks into February, and we're just going to keep plowing forward.
Very good. Thank you very much. Curriculum and instruction?
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Barnett?
Nothing this evening.
Wait a minute. I'm never going to beat him if you don't do this when there isn't other stuff.
Wait, there's more.
All right, I gotta pay you guys. This isn't fair. All right, human resources.
Nothing tonight?
No, it's really not fair.
Oh, here we go.
Student services.
In your package, you have the schools of choice memo, draft memo for the 1920 school year. It's the same recommendation as you've seen in the past. So happy to answer any questions, or if you want to reach out to me by email, you'll see the final memo and we'll vote on it at the next school meeting.
I did have a question that I don't have it in front of me. There was two categories for Oxford High School. 9th grade, or unlimited 9th grade through 12th grade. But then there's an exception for, you have to be IB. Yes,
So
thank you very
it's
much.
developmental kindergarten through 9th grade unlimited. And then 10th and 11th is limited to the IB, health science, engineering, fine arts conservatory for 10th grade and 11th grade.
Okay, so here's where my question came in. 9th through 11th grades, unlimited to early college, unlimited school of choice enrollment will be open March 1, 2019, and close on August 21st, 2019. So is that first part, 9th through 11th, unlimited to early college, and it's not unlimited, all of school of choices in 9th through 11th?
Correct.
Or
Correct.
just for
Correct.
early college?
Early college,
Okay.
yes.
That was my question. Thanks for having me.
I just had a quick question.
Please.
You said this is the same recommendation that we had the last time around, so I'm just going to, under no questions, a dumb question, this is working, this seems to be working well, which is why we're continuing to do it.
Correct.
At these openings.
And we look at student count and enrollment and where we have openings and where we need services.
For the newer board members, it's very important, and Denise, you can probably explain this better than I can. There's a very specific reason why we use the terminology unlimited.
Correct.
Can you
So,
let them?
when the enrollment is unlimited, we would take any student for those grades. We would take, 2 students, 5 students, 25 students, whoever comes to enroll. The only disqualifying factor is if you've been suspended or expelled in the last 2 years. If you've been suspended or expelled in the last 2 years, you're denied enrollment. But unlimited means that we will take however many meet the qualifications, and our window to be open is much longer, March 1 through August 21st, and it really can go even a couple weeks further, but just for the fact that we're trying to get high school students, we need to get them enrolled, we need schedules, there's work we need to do, so we don't wait up until the last minute. If you are limited, you have to identify how many seats I would be open for, so I would have to say developmental kindergarten, 25 seats. And then your enrollment window is only a 15-day window. And if I said 25 seats and we received 26 enrollments or 26 students, then it becomes a lottery process. So if we have the seats available, we like to go with the unlimited.
And then if it becomes a lottery, there's no disqualifying criteria, or that disqualifying criteria based on a suspension, expulsion,
There's still that.
falls in?
Right, there's still
Okay.
the disqualifying factor of suspended or expelled.
Okay.
So, another reason why we stop our enrollment a little bit before the end of the year, because before the start of the school year, we go back early. We're reaching out to the districts where they're coming from to get that discipline paperwork, to get grades and transcripts and things, so.
Chad?
So maybe I'm missing something, but clearly there's not an unlimited number of seats to fill. So if we're saying that it's unlimited, how do we manage that cutoff, I guess?
We've never gone to the point where we have to open up another section or open up another classroom. What we do is we hold those schools of choice enrollments until right before school starts. So parents will come in and they'll say, my first choice is Clear Lake, my second choice is DA. And then when it gets to the end of August, we start looking at how many, it's a second grader, they want Clear Lake, do we have space to give them their first choice? No, I don't have space at Clear Lake, then I move to their second choice or their third choice.
Okay, but we've never gotten to a spot where we've said, we just don't have any more seats for you in the district.
No.
Okay. Cool, thank you.
Corey?
How do we prepare, like last year, we wound up adding another first grade teacher out at Leonard. How do we prepare for that for, like next year? Are we gonna need 3 classes in Leonard for that second grade class? Or do we move some of those students around, or how do we do that?
So Dave doesn't know that yet, but he does that in the spring. Nancy did that. So Nancy would take all of the sections. She would work with the principals. They look at moving the kids up. Maybe that, that bubble then moves, so a teacher moves to the next grade level, but then that first grade class doesn't need 3 sections, they only need 2. So we figure all that out in the spring. Because our first year, we have to look at, do we need to hire staff or lay staff off? So.
You just asked a question that is a very secretive, a logarithmic formula that goes into figuring all these out. We would tell you, but we can't.
Thank you, Colonel Sanders. David, those are other duties as assigned.
Yes, well aware of that.
Okay.
We haven't shared the formula with him yet.
Eric?
So just so I'm clear, the only requirement is is that they have not been suspended or expelled.
Correct. The only disqualifying factor.
Okay.
Yes.
2 years.
So they could have flunked ninth grade 4 times, or have like a incredibly low GPA or something like that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And that
And that is
state
why
mandated.
10th, 11th grade is unlimited to those IB, biomed.
You can craft parameters
Right.
around what you're willing to accept.
Yeah.
Hence the IB and biomedical and all those. The situation that you can't craft is, correct me if I'm wrong, Denise, if you all of a sudden say, well, we're not going to take you because you have low grades, that now sets the bar for everybody in district. So it becomes it's state mandated for
Well, and
discipline.
it would be discriminatory to say, I'll take you on some criteria that I've made up, but I won't take you because I don't really like your transcript. So, yes, we cannot say because you have all D minuses.
And then they flunked ninth grade in Oxford, so.
But when, our ninth grade programs have some interventions in place, REACH programs, so we're, they do screening at that high school level and try to provide interventions for students that may be below that Oxford standard.
So you know that coming in, that this kid's gonna potentially have some challenges that need to be addressed when they get here.
Yes.
Denise, thank you. Unscheduled audience participation? Nothing?
Nothing.
All right. Mr. Throne, any clarifications?
Nope.
You have a list of scheduled events, final board comments. How about if we begin with you, Mr. Griffin?
So, thank you all the presenters. I love what we're doing with security. And Dan and Mary, thank you for asking those questions, because as a techie, I would probably dove a little too deep into that. But to that point, though, security, external security, and failover were top of mind when we were talking through that. So, excellent questions. And the Graduation Alliance, that really stands out in my mind. I don't know who said it, but I heard it. I heard it said once that every child is one caring adult away from success. And to have a program in our district that basically it's our channel out to those kids that have struggled. For us to reach out and say, look, I want to give you a chance. I want to be here to help you. I think that's huge. So I appreciate everything that you're doing to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Corey?
A couple things. The adult program, very impressive. I'm very impressed with us doing that to help, because I know a lot of times it's easy just to give up, but to be able to go back and do that and to be recognized and earn that diploma, that to me that's big. I really think we need to even do more there. As far as the safety presentation, Sam, I think that's huge. Going to the level that we are, I spent well over a decade as a firefighter and medic, and we can train all we want, but as soon as it's real, as soon as that building's filled with smoke, I don't care if you've trained in that building 50 times, you forget doors, you forget hallways, when the adrenaline's running, you forget. So to be able to have somebody in your ear saying, hey, 3 doors up on the left, to me that's invaluable. We can't do enough of that. Thank you for the dinner tonight. I think that was great. I really appreciated that. I also wanted to thank the rest of the board for thinking of my family this week and the flowers. It really meant a lot. So Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Karen, for the dinner. It was delicious. I always appreciate a dinner I don't have to cook. I like cooking, but it's just a nice break. And Jill, thank you for your presentation. I always am interested in what you have to say. I think your job sounds really interesting and sounds like you're very busy. Just load more, what'd you say, education solutions? Everything's becoming an education solution. That's a good thing now. So good, the Graduation Alliance was great, and I really liked the DECA presentation too. That was awesome with Mr. Rook. And thank you for the security presentation as well. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric.
Just another quick shout out to Jill, our Director of Educational Solutions. That looks amazing on a business card. Thanks for going out there and hustling for Oxford. I appreciate it.
Mary?
Great dinner tonight, thank you. It's great to get together for a little social time and chat with some of the administration here. I do like the focus on education solutions. You know, I like being part of a group that's focused on solutions. You know, getting things done and offering opportunities to so many different people. I mentioned I remember hearing about this new program before for the folks who had dropped out of high school, and it's just fantastic that we can offer these opportunities. And I think that's, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are in other schools, but you know, there's 10 kids right there, just right now, and we just started this. You know, that we can really open up new avenues for, and it's fantastic that we have Crossroads, so there's a program that we can connect with so they can get a diploma, you know, through the Crossroads program. It's great to hear about that pre-plan live presentation coming from a Wildcat especially, so that's really great. A couple of years ago I was able to meet Caitlin Roy DeBellis, who is from Sandy Hook, one of the teachers at Sandy Hook. She's the lady who had her kids in the bathroom, in her classroom. And I got to meet her, and she's a fantastic person. But it's great to see that we're doing things, and Sam, thanks for bringing this to us. My kids are older, and they're moving out of the schools, but I live not very far from Leonard Elementary, and I'm fully invested in this community, which is why I wanted to be on the board. So it's good to see that we're on the forefront of these things too, and from the education to the safety pieces. So thank you. I wanted to give a shout out to the improv team, the high school improv team, which I got to come and watch last week. I've been invited a number of times over here in the black box. Again, on the 31st, by the way, I didn't see this on the sheet, so you can add that on January 31st. Come and watch some live improv from the high school students. It was fantastic. I was laughing, and we had a blast. It was a really great time.
My son does that.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming and supporting.
It was great. It was great. So many great things that kids get to do here and get to be a part of. And I follow some sports. Full disclosure, I'm with the robotics team, so I follow the robotics team a lot. But it's great to see our other sports teams doing so well. We've got the wrestling teams unbeaten, varsity wrestling, varsity basketball's kicking out there. So that's really exciting too. Lots of great things going on here. So thanks so much. I'm sorry. I had one more thing. Am I going over time?
Ken did present, so you got plenty.
Okay, great. Let me get my PowerPoint up then. I was able to attend the Oakland County School Board Association Government Relations Committee meeting last week, which was really interesting. I got to meet some more folks, and they talked about the School Finance Research Collaborative that we'll be working hard on through Oakland County School Board Association to get the information out to folks. And I just wanted to share that their final recommendation from this collaborative was that I think we all know that the state doesn't give us enough money to educate our students. We're doing a great job here in Oxford. A friend of mine who's a state senator, actually, when I told him about what I'm doing here, he says, you know, that's a really hard job because you're at the mercy of the state, you know, whatever they decide to give you at any point in time. And this School Finance Research Collaborative came out with a report suggesting a base cost of $9,590 per student. And we're far from that, but I just wanted to put that out there as a positive affirmation, and that's what we're working for. That's what the School Board Association is working for in the state, with some other weights on there for different programs. But it's great to be a part of this group too, really looking forward for the students of Michigan, giving them the finances for the districts to do what it is they need to do to best educate our students. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Corey?
I just wanted to add one thing I forgot to put in there. You know, we talk about all the things that our school is really known for, and when Mr. Card was up here, I don't think a lot of people really know the caliber of the choir he's built. I mean, if you've been in many moods, I mean, the shows sell out right away. But these are actual invitations. We don't send stuff down and say, hey, we want to come sing. We're invited. His choir is, I mean, they're well known. They've been invited to Ireland. These aren't just field trips that he randomly selects. We've been invited to these places. And the caliber of students that he's creating is second to none. And it's pretty impressive.
Thank you for that. Thanks. Mr. Vice President Dan D'Alessandro.
First, I must say, sorry, Ken, you know we love you. Just kidding.
Don't worry about it.
No, not kidding that we love you, just kidding. But first...
I'll have a presentation for you next time.
Okay. He's banking those minutes. First, Dan, outstanding. I mean, there's not a whole lot of times I'll stand up and take a real interest in something that's going. If we are going to be who we say we want to be and put safety in our students first, these are the types of things that we need to really, really roll up our sleeves, look at the dollars and cents of it, and make a decision. What's the most important thing to us? And I think it's safety. Safety of our staff, safety of our students. So we really need to really take a good hard look at what we're going to have in front of us. This is something that will give us, like Sam said and what Dan said, the time that could make the difference, all the difference in the world. You know, in segueing into making a difference, we're doing that. We talked today at dinner, and Karen put on a great dinner, and the staff provided just a great little opportunity for us to sit and talk. And you know, I was talking with Kurt and some of the other folks at our table. We were talking about all the different things that we offer here at Oxford. We offer opportunities for a wide range of students, whether it's virtual students, whether it's students that need a smaller environment, out of bridges. It's our seated students here in high school, just in adult learning, all those types of things. If we're really truly interested in being the district that looks at every opportunity and every student and every kid matters, these are the things that you have to do. Sometimes they're not real popular because people look at it from a dollars and cents perspective, but we're doing the most that we can with the money that we have, and we're doing it right. So it's to be commended, and I know we give these guys a hard time, Sam and Ken and Denise and everybody else in cabinet, but the information that they provide us as a board is great information so that we can make difficult decisions on where we spend our money. And Tim, I want to thank you for kind of spearheading it all and making sure that when we do have questions, it's an open and honest, ask the question, get an answer, not, well, you know, I'll let you know in a month, next time we reconvene. It's quick, because we have to make decisions like these, sometimes pretty quick. So I can't tell you enough how impressed I am with all the different things that we do. And you know, it's Denise was saying that, you know, a student wants to go to Clear Lake and then they want to go to DA, and they could look up and see Chad and Mr. Bigelow looking, who wants to be number one, then you You got Mr. McDivitt sitting there, goes, you know, everybody wants to go out to Leonard. And that's the thing, you know, we don't have a combative relationship, we have a collaborative relationship. I think principals look out for each other. They want to see everybody succeed. Mr. Brown, and Mr. Wolf, everybody wants to, they're on the same team, and that's what we built here. And we got to continue to do it. We're just at the forefront, and we just push forward. So, great job. One last thing, and I know I'm getting a little bit wordy, but sometimes I ask questions that I know the answers to, but I think it's really important for us that have been on the board to ask the questions that maybe we know, so that, like school of choice, that the new board members can get up to speed, because there's going to be a time when you're going to have to ask to make a decision on a vote. So that's kind of where we come from with those. So hopefully it doesn't add too much time on to the meeting, but I think it's information well known.
No, thank you. Listening to the DECA program, again, one of the things that I'm very proud of, and it just keeps coming up, is the way that we are mentoring, using programs to mentor to grades below us. I think too quickly someone can miss that stuff. But when I was in school, it was about my grade, us getting through what we were going to do. There was no idea like, hey, why don't we send some of these kids down to the junior high? Why don't you send some of these kids down to the elementary school and engage and start to mentor? In time, the value of that is going to incrementally become immeasurable. I mean, that's what's going to be really cool, is that because we're doing that kind of stuff, it's going to have huge dividends in the future. So that's amazing. Gentlemen, thank you for the presentation. To have men in our community working on cutting edge stuff like this and investing some of the time that you have already, it's much appreciated, and just want to thank you very much for that. Jill, great job. I like to tease you about the one thing that still looms out there, but I won't bring that up today. But we've had discussions, new board members. We were the board that worked on Lighthouse. And questions, why this, why that, why should you do that, right? And then you look at a map like that, and you look that we've already exceeded our student thought, by, we're at 350 now, that's the unofficial. This is the stuff. This is the stuff that makes us better than anyone else. It is what makes us better than anyone else. It's that we are looking at what is another way to get to that group of kids. What is another way to do this? What is another way to do that? And I'm proud of us. So thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Throne.
Yes, so just a few things. Thank you for Steve in high school on the DECA update. I can remember, gosh, it may have been 10 or 12 years ago, they made it to nationals, and that year it happened to be in San Diego. And so I went to Steve and I said, Steve, I'll be a chaperone.
Yeah.
And well, I wasn't allowed to go. So, they've had the opportunity to go to some awesome places, and he just, year in and year out, does a great job with DECA. I wanted to follow up, thank you, Craig and Dan, for I don't know, making your world debut tonight and announcing your product. But so the board knows, we've been working with them, it's probably closer to 2 years. So as I was sitting here thinking, so not this past summer of 2018, but it would have been the summer of 2017, we actually, to your question, Eric, what have we spent, what have we put into this? I don't know if we gave money directly to Preplan Live, or if we paid the robotics students directly, but I'd have to go back and look. but I want to say it was a couple $1,000s. And that when we started doing all the 3D mapping and modeling of the buildings, they just didn't have the resources to do everything, and so we were paying in essence, our own students to do some of that. But that's been it. It's not like we've been, paying a monthly fee or anything like that. Likewise, I would say our in-kind contribution has been, we had was the meeting this week or last week? It must have been last week. In which they bring back where they're at, and we sit there and give them feedback on, okay, in reality, how would this actually happen? What would a principal actually do? And so we've been able to give them, I'll just say our 2 cents worth on how to manipulate and change that app to better meet our needs. At the end of the day, to me, it's about looking out, not looking within, finding those partnerships and developing and growing those partnerships in areas that we know we want to develop, that we want to get better in, or that we may want to provide service to students in. It's constantly an outward look. But anyways, thank you very much to both of you for bringing and showing your stuff tonight. Lastly, I just want to say publicly that prior to the board meeting, Karen and her team provided the board with a board appreciation dinner. This is Board Appreciation Month. In front of you, you also have a small token of our appreciation, and thank you, Angela, for going out and putting all that together. Finally, in front of you, as a part of Board Appreciation Month, I'm not going to read it, but each of you have a signed letter from our state representative, John Riley, and he just wanted to make sure that you also knew from him that he appreciates your service to the board. So with that, thank you for your board service. It may only go downhill from here the rest of the year. This is the first month of the year. Hopefully it doesn't, but at least we started out on a really good note. So that's all I have.
Mr. Throne, anything under other?
You do have an agenda for you. We have our board retreat this weekend that we've got a full day of training and stuff. We're going to go on Saturday, and so that's just, don't get that lost in your stuff. Downtown, we start at 9 o'clock. We'll have lunch and stuff, but we've got a full day planned for Saturday.
Downtown Oxford.
Downtown Oxford.
Downtown.
Downtown.
Just
That's the only downtown I know.
Is Mary
No.
And board members, don't forget before you leave to sign
Yes.
our document that's back on the piano.
Yes.
All the same color pen, and it's in Angela's hand.
That's right.
All right. If nothing else, then this meeting is adjourned, and it's a great day to be a Wildcat.